Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. In November of 1963, the world watched as the United States scrambled to deal with one of its most dramatic and devastating public assassinations in its history. The popular and beloved John F. Kennedy was dead, gunned down in what many historians believe to be a conspiracy that has gone unsolved to this day. Regardless of the truth of the killer, the country needed to move forward with little choice but to follow the next man up. Kennedy's lesser known but in many ways equally controversial running mate, the strong-willed Texan who would serve as the nation's 36th president, Lyndon B. Johnson. Johnson was born in 1908 and married in 1934. He entered the House of Representatives before World War II, but like his forebear Kennedy, he served during the war with honors in the South Pacific before re-entering politics after the war. Now, he jumped from the lower chamber to the upper in 1948, where he would become Senate Minority Leader, and then in 1954, Senate Majority Leader upon a Democrat retake of the upper chamber. With plenty of political clout, Johnson was poised to be a candidate for the vice presidency, which came about when Kennedy chose him for his victorious 1960 election bid. While Kennedy and Johnson appeared to be a strong duo publicly, historians have since speculated that the two men were not always the best of pals and had some rivalry between them. This rivalry was rather subdued but became increasingly more public after John's death, as Johnson became estranged with John's brother, Robert. Now, during his presidency, Johnson pushed to pass the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which he succeeded in doing so that year, the same year he won his only election bid. Johnson was a complex figure. His legacy is tied intimately to his leadership over the nation during the Vietnam War, which quickly came to dominate the press during his only full term in office. Now, had he orchestrated a clear victory in the war, perhaps his legacy would be more positive today, but he was unable to do so. By 1968, the nation was reaching fever-pitch levels. Civil rights activist Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in the spring of that year, and 2 months later, Johnson's rival Bobby Kennedy, who was on the rise as a potential rival in the Democratic Party for president, was also gunned down. Johnson chose voluntarily to bow out of the '68 election, and he lived several more years before his death in 1973 at the age of 64. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.